along those lines with the physical interaction of spirit and the physical manifestation. So this is an example. It was nerves initially when I got up here, but now my vibration is as such of I feel terrific. I feel wonderful. Is there, for me, chi, or the vibration of your energy, is there too high? Are you going to shake yourself right out of this being?
Well, that's what we were talking about. Your inner being knows how much you can handle and doesn't offer you more than you're ready for. When Esther first began receiving us, she felt like she had her toe in a light socket, because Jerry was summoning through his questions that he'd been carrying around his whole life. And so he was asking in a very strong way, and Esther was allowing it, but she wasn't in perfect vibrational alignment with us, and so it was a little rough in the beginning. But after a while, you acclimate to that higher frequency. And so, ask the question again.
Is there a physical way to know when you've achieved, you talk about the deliciousness of moments, if a moment is so delicious and you're vibrating at such a high level, is there a physical clue that you have?
We're so happy about this question. The clue, or the indicator, is a feeling of satisfaction. Now, when you think about the emotional scale and how you could feel satisfaction, or you could feel exhilaration, you could feel passion, you could feel off-the-wall enthusiasm, you could feel strong love or appreciation, you could feel so much love that your weeping is overflowing from you. And so, yes, there are certainly degrees of emotions, but look at it this way. When you're in a state of alignment, then you are in the state of receiving. So your inner being is offering a vibration, and if you stay there, your inner being will sort of not bring you up and not compel you up, but create a pathway that makes it easy for you to go up. That's the best way of saying it. And so when you get in the vicinity, it's easier for you to find those better and better and better feeling emotions. And so satisfaction is the word that we would be looking for, because it's a relative thing, isn't it? Anger feels a lot better than hopelessness. And even though anger doesn't feel all that good, it's relative, and the same is true of the emotions that are feeling good. So what makes the difference in the way an emotion feels? You're really ready for this question. We haven't not talked much about this. So you can tune yourself to the frequency of your inner being, and that always feels satisfying. And then you can let yourself receive what your inner being knows about the subject that you're focused upon, and that feels way more than satisfying. That feels like ecstasy. And once you begin hanging around in those higher frequencies more often, so that you've got a give and take going with your inner being, where you're asking and your inner being is answering, there becomes a synergy or a momentum. It's like it all begins to pick up speed, and that's what feels the very best to you. That's really what you want. You really don't just want to ask a question and receive an answer, although that is satisfying. But it is so much more satisfying when you're asking and receiving an answer, and then a new question is born out of that new answer, and a new answer is born out of that question, and it's back and forth in this creative dance. That's what really feels the best. And that feels like passion or love of life or enthusiasm or I want more. And that really is the mantra of the universe. It's more expansion, more joyous expansion. So it sounds like we're talking about two different things. We really aren't, but it sounds like we're talking about frequency, which is tuning to your source, and then momentum added to that frequency, which is just increasing the frequency all that much more. But satisfaction is what you're reaching for.
And so is that the goal, is just to stay there, just to build the momentum there as high as you can and stay there as long as you can throughout the variety of contrast that's presented through creation?
The known goal and the inevitable goal that is known, the goal you knew, the goal you know, the inevitable goal that is known is expansion. That's what we are all about. There's no going back. But joyous expansion is what you're wired for. It's who you are. When you get on the joy end of expansion, there are a lot of people that are on the contrast end of expansion. The majority of people on the planet are in the contrasting, unhappy, asking for more mode, and they really are responsible for the expansion of all that is. But those who know that they're doing that and now are deliberately tuning to the expansion that's been asked for, you can have growth without expansion. You can have growth and expansion without really being joyful as it's happening. But to be joyful and engaged in your own expansion, it just does not get any better than that. That's what you came intending to experience. For example, it might feel good to you that somebody would just say, I like the way you look, and so I'm going to give you $1 million. And you would have to accept that your point of attraction had everything to do with that. In other words, it wouldn't just happen to you unless your point of attraction were in the vicinity. But even with that kind of attraction, it would be ever so much more satisfying if you were consciously aware of what you'd been asking for and you had been incrementally aligning yourself with it, so that you'd been witnessing the logical unfolding of this, so that this $1 million is just flowing again and again and again and again and again and again, because you've got your hands in the clay in a more deliberate way. That was the distinction that we were making, that a lot of times you can be in alignment just by stumbling into it. That's what step 3 is. You can be in the receiving mode and not even know what the receiving mode is. You could hear a song, or someone could be loving you, or you could be looking at something where the condition just evoked it from you. So there are lots of step 3 moments of being in the receiving mode that you just sort of blunder into. But when you reach the place where you're doing that on purpose, when you are deliberately tuning yourself to the frequency of your inner being, and you've shown yourself that within a relatively short time you can get there anytime you choose, that's when life becomes delicious in the way you intended when you came.
I agree.
Yeah. Something more?
I guess a couple different things. So when you have your vortex out there, and I've been practicing your teachings for a very long time, and so when you have your vortex out there and you're trying to be on the high-flying disc and increase the rate that your manifestations are coming to you, why is it that negative manifestations will still appear when you're trying to only focus on positive outcomes?
Because of the momentum that you've already got going. In other words, it's like the train that's rolling down the track at 100 miles an hour. It's not going to suddenly stop. And just because you've got another train moving in the other direction on other subjects, it doesn't mean that that train is going to come to an immediate stop. In other words, thoughts are powerful. Thoughts have momentum. It takes a little while for you to slow them down.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Ask that question again.
So as your vortex is being created and as you're moving in the direction of that vortex, why is it that negative manifestations will appear even though you focus on
Because you're not
positive
consistently moving toward the vortex. Because your thoughts move about a bit. Because the way you feel is always about what you're focused upon. In every moment, every single time, no exceptions, your emotions are about the mix of your thought and your inner being's thought. But we can say that better. Your emotions are in every moment about law of attraction's response to your thought and law of attraction's response to your inner being's thought. Let's say that you've been worried about something and your inner being isn't. You're focused upon something going wrong. Your inner being is focused upon it going right. So you feel discouraged or worried, let's say. So then, let's say you meditate. And as you meditate, you quiet your mind, and so that vibration of resistance subsides. So now, there's only one point of attraction while you're meditating. And what is it? It's the point of attraction of your inner being, who knows who you are and what you want and is focused only there. So now, how does that feel? That feels like satisfaction. That feels like well-being. See how it goes? Negative emotion is always about introducing resistance into what would be a positive thought otherwise. It's like the cork will float unless you hold it under the water, and you will be in positive emotion unless you're focused upon something that doesn't allow it. It really is that simple. So now?
As those negative creations appear, I find myself focusing on them to handle them, and so what you're saying is just let go of the cork and they'll go away.
This is the case that we were making earlier today about how humans, dear hearts that you are, how you want to look at stuff. The manifestation is so meaningful to you. And we would like the manifestation to be less meaningful and the joyful journey to be more meaningful. We want you to care more about your emotion than about what you're looking at, because what you're looking at is very temporary. The manifestation that you're looking at that's got you all twisted into a knot is a temporary thing unless you keep looking at it and reproducing it. So if you can trust that lack of attention to it will cause it to dissipate into nothing, and attention to it will keep it alive and keep it growing. But the thing is, you can't just not think about something, and you can't meditate all day every day either. We're not encouraging that. So if you can just accept that rather than trying to make the unwanted go away, try to find something wanted and give some attention to that. And the more you do that, the more unwanted will go away, and the more wanted will become more prevalent in your experience. You know that from your own experiences, don't you?
Absolutely.
Have you ever sat down with some others and somebody complained about something and you gave your attention to it and then activated in your memory with something like it, so you piped in with your experience like that, and before you know it, everybody there is having these experiences until you've got a real complaining session going on with everybody and nobody feels good. Or it could go the other way too. The whole point of this gathering, the whole point of our responding to your asking, the whole thing that we and what we know can enhance you and what you want. This is the bottom line of it. If you are reaching for alignment with your inner being, then you are becoming whole, you're fulfilling your reason for being, you're in vibrational alignment with everything you want, you're in the vortex, you have pure positive energy flowing through you, you're vital and alive. In other words, there's just no downside to that. If you are seeking companionship or camaraderie or understanding with or a relationship with your inner being, if you let your inner being be your dominant quest for relationship, then you get so much benefit from that. But most people are wanting your attention, wanting another human's attention, wanting you to understand me. That's mostly what it is. Want you to get why I'm where I am. And that separates you from who you really are, and it's that separation 100% of the time. Separation is too strong a word, but some degree of it. Resistance. That's always what negative emotion or not feeling good are about. And so I'm not sure. Well, we were having a good run here.
Sure.
And the reason that we were saying things like ask your question again is because you are doing such a good job of, you are pointed with a question, and because of your expectation of this relationship, you were receiving the answer or the refinement of the answer almost immediately, which puts you in a different vibrational place to ask the question again. And every time you ask the question from this increasing vibrational place, it caused the answer to develop in new and satisfying ways. That's what co-creation at its best is, and that's what your life experience is doing for you too. You have an experience, you know what you don't want, you know what you do want, you launch a rocket of desire. And at first, the rocket is foreign to you because this is the habit of thought. This is the belief or the pattern of vibration. But as you keep focusing on what you want, and you meditate, and you care about what you want, and you are able to accomplish more attention to what you want and less attention to the absence of it, then you shift. And when you shift, there's a tipping point where now you're in a place where you now begin to receive impulses and inspiration, and now the manifestation fleshes out in your experience, and now you're living in a very short period of time something you were asking for before, but now you're living it. But now you've got what you asked for, but now you're standing in a whole different place, in a different set of contrasting experiences, which are launching more rockets, which at first are foreign, but then you line up with them, and then there you are again with a different set of contrasting experiences, and so on and on and on it goes. Just this never-ending, joyous expansion. Not, oh, I'm so tired of this, don't I ever get it done? No, you don't ever get it done. It's time to give in to that. You're not ever going to get it done, and you're not going to get it wrong either. You can't get it wrong because it's not done, ever.
And so, to kind of go back to the last question, so if I can just maintain the high-flying disc, the contrast will continue to come because my mind will not be focused enough that negative experiences won't come my way. And so I just need to kind of embrace the deliciousness of the moment, even in contrast.
Well said. And that's what step 5 is. Step 5 is recognizing that there's contrast, but not being upset about it. Right. Understanding the value of the contrast. Because when you understand the value of contrast, then you don't leave your inner being who always understands the value of contrast. So then contrast doesn't feel like negative emotion. It doesn't feel like defeat. It feels like opportunity. Right. It doesn't feel like confusion. It feels like clarity. It doesn't feel like something's gone wrong. It feels like everything's going right.
Right.